In this tutorial video, I am going to explain a technique called onion skinning, and I will explain how it can be accomplished in Create Studio even though it is not natively available in the application. First, let's start with the definition of what onion skinning is. Onion skinning is a technique used in creating animated videos and editing movies to see more than one frame at a time. It's called onion skinning because an onion has multiple layers, similar to the way animated cartoons were made before the advent of computer graphics. First, we'll watch the video, and then we'll come back to break it down step by step. So our friend Hercules here likes to pose and show off his amazing physique, but when we found him hanging around in Vecteezy, he was just a boring flat file kind of guy, with no personality, and certainly not very animated. We picked Hercules for this project because he had quite a few poses and no background, making him the ideal candidate for this tutorial. By the way, did you know that you can easily remove backgrounds in Create Studio by simply right-clicking on the image and selecting Remove Background? Watch here as we bring in the file and remove the background in 3 clicks. Create Studio does an amazing job of this every time. Now back to Hercules. So, we've imported the Hercules image into Create Studio from Vecteezy. As a side note, thank you to the folks at Create Studio for building this amazing resource right into the application. We will resize the image to fit on the workspace. This is not mandatory, it's just a personal preference. Once we have the image resized, we bring a rectangle onto the workspace and size it to the largest Hercules pose. We will be using the rectangle as a track mat for all of the Hercules poses. We use the track mat almost exclusively now, as opposed to masking, because of the versatility it offers. In this video, we like the fact that we'll be able to use the one rectangle to mask 7 or 8 different Hercules poses. Now that the tracking mask has been resized, we can stretch it out to approximately 16 seconds because there are 8 poses and we want each one to last about 2 seconds. One last thing we need to do to the track mat is to make it black, so whatever we place inside of it will be fully visible. If you make the track mat any color other than black, your image will appear faded or washed out. Later in the video, we will also lock the track mat so that we don't accidentally select it or move it. Next up, we adjust the image length. As we mentioned earlier, we want each of the poses to last approximately 2 seconds. We will also create the track mat integration now from the image to the rectangle. When we do this, the image will disappear until we click on Alpha. Now that we have the image at the right length and tracked matted to the rectangle, we can duplicate it 7 more times, so we end up with 8 images in total, 1 for each pose. Now we unlock the rectangle, adjust its length to match the 8 images, and lock it back up. We are now coming to the onion skinning. First, you'll need to add a fade transition between every image. We do this for 2 reasons. First, it will create the onion skinning that we will need to position Hercules in the right spots. And second, it will make the transition of the poses look fluid, like Hercules is actually moving from pose to pose. So, now that you've got all of your images set up, the next step is going to be to place them correctly so that they transition from one to the other. making it look like Hercules is changing poses. So the first thing you want to do is you want to put your cursor between the transitions so that you can see two images at the same time. You'll have to adjust the tuned imagery so that it falls over the first image, and you'll have something like a faded effect showing up for the two of them. I like to use the character's eyes to place everything so that it matches up. If you use the eyes, then the image doesn't jump around. It's okay if the legs and the arms are jumping around because they're supposed to be moving anyway. But if the eyes stay in the same place, then the head stays in the same place as well, and you'll end up getting a nice smooth transition from pose to pose. So, I'm not sure if you noticed, but we can't see all the images at one time, only the ones that are now within the track map that we created. This is actually what we want, because only one of them is going to show up at a time, and the best part is that by using a track mat and tracking all the images to the same rectangle, we can use one to do all of our maskings, instead of having to create separate masks for every single image. Now we can see that the animation is working the way that's supposed to work. Hercules looks smooth and fluid as he goes from pose to pose. Now we unlock the rectangle that we are using for the track mat so that we can group everything in one group. By having everything in one group, it makes it easy for us to be able to resize Hercules and put them wherever we want on the screen. Now let's play the full animation and see how everything looks. Hercules goes from pose to pose looking smooth and composed. Sorry. That we've got Hercules working the way that we want, we're going to double the animation. So we're going to go from approximately 16 seconds to approximately 32 seconds or so. Don't forget to add a fade transition between the two Hercules groups, like I did here, so you don't end up with a clunky switchover. We're going to create the intro with the stone text that says "The Mighty Hercules" and give him some epic music as well as a posing platform that looks like the Earth. And to finish things off, we'll use the particles component to create an outer space effect. First, we'll start by changing the color of the background, which we will make that black to represent outer space. And then we'll bring in a circle and resize it to look like planet Earth / a posing platform. Next, bring in the particle component so we can make the outer space background. Place it at the bottom so it will be behind the other layers. Set the count to 576, the size to 0.4, leave the colors white, and change the animation to static. Turn off the rotation, pulsating, swinging, orbiting, and blinking. It's time to create the Mighty Hercules intro logo, which looked like it was made out of stone. So we'll see if we can try to replicate that here in Create Studio. To create the logo for the intro, we'll add the text and write "The Mighty Hercules." Make it gray like the color of stone, resize it, and then we'll distort it to make it look tall. To make it look more like stone, we'll make it look thick like it was carved. To do this, we'll add a 180-degree shadow effect, and we'll make it a similar gray, just a little bit darker, so it looks like the light is not hitting it. We set the motion of the text to fade in, bring the Hercules group right up against it, and add another fade transition. Now all that's left to do is just bring in some epic music from the Create Studio music library. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on that notification bell so you are alerted whenever we put out new videos.